Just do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. Alright, we just got done sitting through stupid Ex Machina.
So have you guys seen Ex Machina yet? Because I'd rather talk about that movie. Again. I think that someone may have seen it
This
as well.
This movie is a movie that wants to be Ex Machina but doesn't realize that it's Splice.
Well, it's like they watched Ex Machina and they're like, okay, yeah, I like it, but I've got some notes.
But,
First of all, you should paint her silver so everyone can know she's a robot.
yeah.
Second of all, you didn't have nearly enough kung fu action scenes, so probably have them like wrestling in the woods and shooting each other with guns.
Yes.
Third of
Hand-to-hand
all-
combat, fucking karate. Yeah. Like,
Third of all, she's gonna need some catchphrases. So like a sorry buddy, and like I am become myself, bum bum bum. Fourth of all, I don't know, someone from Game of Thrones.
this
To
movie
draw in
was...
the younger generation.
That's the best way to put this, because it really is the studio notes version of Ex Machina.
It absolutely is.
And I, honestly, yeah, just watch either Ex Machina or Splice, honestly, because at least I like Splice, because at least Splice realizes it's an exploitation film. This movie is, it's trying to be so clever and never realizes that it's just a slasher film.
Because like there's a big twist ending
Oh.
that you figure out probably about 10 minutes into the movie. Basically when the scientist lady was like, don't I know you? And she's like, no, I don't think so. You're like, oh, okay, she's a robot.
Then yeah.
And then the whole movie spends the entire time coyly winking at you like, something's going on here. We're like, yes, I know, she's a robot.
It's like, yeah, I already know because you foreshadowed it to me so fucking obviously that only an idiot wouldn't be able to figure that shit out. Man. But you know what? I will say that no matter how dumb this movie is, because it's fucking stupid as shit. It is never boring.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't like sitting back in my chair and sighing at any point. I was definitely taking mental notes about stuff that I wanted to pick on after the movie.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any point where I was just like super engrossed in it. But I wasn't bored.
Yeah, no, I wasn't, because there's so much shit going on in this movie, and they spout out so much mumbo jumbo in this film that not once did I ever really fully understand why they're doing this. Like, especially once the thing takes someone's eye out, and I've got a great idea. Let's have angry, bitter Paul Giamatti go in there and antagonize the shit out of
He
it.
was my favorite part. He's the worst psychiatrist ever. Although, it's technically the best, since that was a hell of a profile. The impression that I got... Okay, so... The premise of the movie is that they've invented this little girl robot. And she stabbed one of her handlers, and so a risk management consultant needs to come in and assess her viability in terms of risk versus profit. Stuff happens, robot girl goes kill crazy. It comes to light that the risk management assessor is a robot. I don't feel bad spoiling that for you guys. You'd have figured it out.
Are they robots? I thought
soon.
they were just manufactured in a lab. Not that they're necessarily a robot.
No,
But
it's an AI. So they basically tricked a human fetus into also being a robot.
Oh.
That's the reason she was silver, because of the robots inside of her fetusness. Probably. Or they just wanted her to be silver so that you could tell she was a robot. But it seemed like what they were saying was that the earlier models were specifically made to be weapons, to be assassins, to be like combat droids. But this new project, the L9 that they were working on, they somehow made it more emotionally aware and autonomous, in the hopes that they could teach it to be peaceful and use it for other stuff, like I guess servitor droid or whatever. But
no, she'll take your fucking eye out.
Then when it hit puberty, it remembered its weaponization, which was what that whole shit with the hands was. Probably. I feel like they could have at least used some sort of like Because, like, okay, so whenever the robot went kill crazy, she'd, like, put her hands on the table and she'd flip them upside down, and then she'd go kill crazy. And so at the end, when you get the big reveal about Kamara, she puts her hands on the table and she flips it over. But there's no purpose to this in terms of combat droidiness.
That's why probably is a key word in describing any aspect of this film.
I'm doing my best. But like, maybe if she had instructions written on her palms for who she was supposed to be murdering, or, like, if... I don't know, she had turned her hands over and there were bullets in them. But past that, it didn't serve any purpose.
Well, the problem here is that they have a team of the dumbest scientists in the world watching after this thing.
The team of the dumbest scientists, and then also a cook.
And also the cook.
Who was convinced that he was going to save the day. Bless his little heart.
He tried. He totally tried. It was he lasted longer than most of the others.
That's true.
So...
When Paul, he's on the winning team.
When Paul Giamatti goes in here, fully knowing that this thing can be violent and has already ripped someone's eyeball out, Paul Giamatti's big plan is to not sit behind the glass, which any person would have fucking figured they should do.
Well, his argument made sense.
His argument made sense, but... it didn't make sense why she couldn't at least have been restrained. Like, okay, when he said, like, look, if I have to talk to her behind a plate of glass, that means she fails the psych evaluation. That's a good point. But that's really dumb on them for, again, not restraining the fuck out of the person who he is intentionally trying to antagonize. And he literally says, if you can't, when he says to her, what if hypothetically I recommended to have you terminated? And then he literally says to her, if you can't tell me what you would do, show me. To the thing that is already fucking demolished poor Jennifer Jason Leigh's face. So, shock of all shocks, this thing that this killing machine he's threatened bites his throat out.
This is one of the many, many reasons I love Paul Giamatti, because there's no reason for that character to have any degree of nuance or pathos, but it was Paul Giamatti, so he freaking injected some from somewhere. He had like a little tiny backstory about how he had been in Utah dealing with personal matters. Probably that was what was up with his 13-year-old daughter. But he had this look in his eye of just like total defeat and almost nihilism. And so when he tells the robot, like, if you can't tell me, show me, he had this look in his eye like, fucking kill me, I dare you.
Yeah, I dare you to kill me, killing machine.
Do it. Fucking I don't care. I'm Paul Giamatti.
It's like mooning the Terminator. He's gonna shoot you. I like that Paul Giamatti's entire part is in the trailer for this movie.
Oh, is it really?
Yes. Everything from him antagonizing Morgan to Morgan killing him is in the trailer. I
wish I'd known that. All I did was look it up on IMDb, and I'm like, oh, Paul Giamatti's in this.
Oh, you never got a trailer for this?
No.
Oh, really? Oh, I guess... I've gotten it a lot, but I guess that would have been stuff that me and Brian have
I don't tend to go to the scary ones.
Yeah, this showed at the beginning of pretty much most things me and Brian went to. And yeah, the trailer looked like what it was. Honestly, the trailer didn't misrepresent the film by any means, although it is a bit more kung fu combat heavy than the trailer.
There was an awful lot of kung fu. Like, it basically played out like a slasher film.
It's absolutely a slasher film.
It had, like, meddling and things you don't understand. It had all the different archetypes. It had the two that were banging. It had the virgin one. It had the wisecracking sidekicky guy.
Yeah.
And then it had the wiser older couple. And they just basically eventually she went kill crazy, and she murdered them one by one. Except for the one that killed himself, Toby.
Oh my god, I tried so hard not to laugh at that.
Is this Toby Jones? Is that his name?
Toby Jones.
I'm so happy whenever he shows up. Why were you laughing?
Because I feel like he had other issues. If this is what caused him to hang himself in his office.
He loved her like a daughter was the problem. But then she went kill crazy, and I feel like it was interesting of them to portray a scientist as too sentimental, because you don't see that very often, but yeah.
They went a little too far with me. Well, my experiment is done. Goodbye, world.
Grunk.
But you know what? I I really did love the hell out of Kate Mara in this movie.
Yeah, she was fun.
She was actually a blast, and like when she's going through the woods like all fucking Terminatrix and shit at the end of it, like I bought it. She was really pretty intimidating in this.
Yeah, and she wasn't like being like sneaky. She was just kind of storming through the underbrush with a rifle. She went out, realized she couldn't track the thing, so just shot up in the air and stood there and waited for her to show up.
I liked it when she said to the cook, like, "Will you just let me do my job?"
He kept trying to have a romantic subplot with her, and she was having none of it. Although I think it's, again, speaking of notes from the studio, I think that someone told her to walk sexy, so like
Kate Mara.
Yeah, so she'd do something all hardcore and assassiny, and then she'd take off towards the car with kind of like a willowy sway to her hips that made no sense for the character whatsoever.
Well, when she was doing her psych evaluation, it was just watching a bunch of John Wayne movies.
Oh, see, there it was. She was trying to do like the John Wayne saunter. It was just her pants were too tight.
Exactly. She got waist-high freaking pants
They were good pants. It was a really cute outfit. But
yeah, she was pulling off those suits. She was pulling off that short haircut. No, I did really enjoy her in this movie, and I enjoyed the soundtrack too. It started getting into like this sort of like like sci-fi B movie-ish kind of musical score towards the end of the film, like enough
like weird stings.
Yeah, enough to where like I was sitting there watching this movie like this is just almost kind of laughable in a way, and it's studio notey as fuck for another movie, which is rare that I see that. But I was kind of like I can't recommend going out to a theater and paying ticket prices to see this, but if like Brian and I, or like a group of us, were watching this on Netflix at home.
When
like,
it inevitably shows up on Netflix, give it a watch with at least a couple other people. So that you can point dumb stuff out as they happen.
Yeah.
I kept they kept making faces on screen, and then I would turn to like make the face at you.
Yeah.
But you weren't paying attention, so it's like, alright, I'll watch myself.
I saw you once and I turned over and looked. I didn't notice any other times. I must have been fully engrossed into the plot of this film.
The biggest one for me was when the bad robot was strangled underwater.
Yeah.
And then they did like a close up on her face and she was going,
oh yeah. That was like, it wasn't much of a climax. It was just like, well, we just drowned her. All right, whatever. I expected
them to end with like, and then she opens her eyes.
That's what I thought was gonna happen.
But it didn't.
What's wrong, movie? You don't want to sequel bait this?
I think they prequel baited us, and we're gonna be all flooded to know what happened in Helsinki. Because they went in with 20 people and came out with only 7.
Oh, I'm pretty sure Stranger Things is the prequel to this movie. Again, kind of a studio notey version of.
Yeah, just go watch Stranger Things.
Honestly, did you read about when they pitched The Walking Dead to NBC? And NBC's studio notes were, can it be a procedural? Like, if they're investigating different zombie-related crimes every episode.
I did read a letter that they got from the studio when they were making Back to the Future.
Yeah.
About how the studio suggested they change the name to Spaceman from Pluto, so that it wouldn't have such a genre-y title. And then they gave a couple notes as to like places in the script they could change to reference Spaceman from Pluto to make the title make sense. And I guess the way that they responded was, thanks for the joke, we all had a great laugh.
Yeah. Thanks to the Ex Machina director is like, thanks for the joke, but I'm gonna stick with the less karate version. Instead,
I'm gonna stick with the disco dancing.
We will concede on the disco dancing
because that's amazing.
Because that'll be everyone's favorite part of the movie. This movie could have used a little disco dancing in it. Is there anything else about this?
You wanted to talk about something briefly before we got to previews.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
I guess, yeah, my final thought on this was like, it's a perfect, just Netflix and hang out with your friends and watch this.
Yeah, because like you're gonna have some thoughts that you want to express as the movie's going.
You'll want to talk verbally while watching it.
Yeah.